Hey, muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchísimas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and of course, the love you guys extend and share with me. From the heart, thank you. And before I get into the story at hand, I do want to touch on something that I got asked, of course, respectfully, and I respect the person that asked me, so I want to basically just say something to make things clear, right? I know that everyone's aware, my family, they're doing their thing out here. And with my current health situation, I know there's many of you, right, asking, why ain't I getting the best treatment, right, due to my family doing their thing? Well, first and foremost, it's my family doing their thing, right? I ain't a part of it. You see, when I got out, even when my dad was here, I got invited to it, right? But I was always that individual that you could say, turned its back on the family to maintaining my walk and my cause. So what type of individual would I be to even request it now, right? Even now I'm asked of certain things and I ain't capable of, right? So anyways, if I can bring nothing to the table, I'm sure not gonna take. Nevertheless, for those that know the wiggle in Mexico, or anywhere for that, right? Family or no family, ain't nothing for free. So basically, I'm not saying they're not here for me if push comes to shove, right? In a sense, if I hit a brick wall in some aspect, and in that sense of that world, right? But basically, they want me to request and ask, and at the same time, put on the table what I'm gonna do. It's just how things are. So again, you guys know I'm not that individual. A mano would always scratch another hand, right? So again, yes, my family's doing their thing, but that has nothing to do with me, right? Anyways, I just thought I answer it because I know it's on a lot of people's mind, right? And to get into the story on hand today. Today I want to touch on an individual that, unless you were with them before Pelican Bay or at Pelican Bay, you don't really hear a lot of, right? Nevertheless, he's one of them I have mentioned before, them silent ones that prefers doing things behind the shadows and can see bigger and better things than just politic on a barrio or on a yard, right? Per se, over crumbs. And it's 'cause what it is, right? I know a lot of people be like, nah, and I'm not minimizing what the guys from the state gets, right? That have neighborhoods, that have pintas, whatever, right? But there are crumbs compared to the big picture. Anyways, today I want to touch on Sal, or as people know him, Topito from Venice, right? Again, I don't really know too much about this individual up until the point that I hit the Bay right at the end of 2004. Little by little, his name started circling around, and it started circling around because, well, the way it caught my attention. Again, we go back to my family, right? I used to bring him to a table to make feria with the pilis, right, for the causa. But at the end of the day, I will do the plug and punch out, right? And so it's always interested to myself, right, when they said a certain individual was plugged into Sinaloa. Again, I was a sureño, always, first and foremost. But, it was always like a thing to bring to the table that meant something. I don't know if that makes sense. Nevertheless, it caught my attention, right? And at this time, so I started hearing about Topito, right? That he had a lot of weight, a lot of wiggle with Sinaloa. And of course, it's the way our politics is, right? Let's just keep it a buck. Is you feel another individual's lying because you have some type of in work with a certain thing they're involved with as well. So right away you're trying to prove a lie there to go for blood. It's just sincerely, right? And we always forget there's, like, for example, Sinaloa is big. Even though I know the Wiggles in Sinaloa, I fell into it in the sense that there's a lot of families out there, right? Just because one's plugged in with the family don't mean that they have to reach out to whoever you're plugged in with, right? Anyways, so Topito, he was true. He was it, right? He was, in touch with the Zambadas. Big time, right? And whatever he was doing for whoever Pili, but he was bringing it to a lot of Pili's labs, right? But he didn't have no interest in holding down a jardín in the state or a neighborhood. He allowed his homeboy Psycho to do that on the streets, and you know, he pulled in his way different avenues. And a lot of people don't know this, but when it comes to the EME, there's a big faction that works out of Washington. Yes, from Cali to Washington, and I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I do know of members being from Washington, period. So they're out there. Anyways, Topito's stronghold was always Washington. He had camaradas from Cali out there with certain neighborhoods from homies out there. Of course, doing what camaradas would be doing in the States, just on a candy based type of thing, right? For the zambadas. But when it came to Topito, it was his sense of power with his carnales, right? For the organization that you could say we belong in, right? And he had a lot of jugo. But in this time, I want to talk specifically about how, first and foremost, Topito was a mellow individual, real respectful. He concentrated on bigger and better things, right? Again, he don't let it like his name being in the mix when it came to little roces with other carnales, and but it's just part of the game, right? And I'm not saying this just to pin it on carnales, no. It's part of the program, period. If you're a camarada with weight, there's only one way you can maintain that weight, and it's by bringing good quantities to the table or to blending into them ways with the pilis, right? And hurting camaradas is just facts. Being a poison to the causa instead of being that making the causa, as we tend to all say we are, right? Anyways, again, he had a big base up in Washington, and I know this is all out there already, but out of respect for certain camaradas I had the pleasure of knowing right from Washington, I'll just leave it out. But they were doing their thing big time. For one, they didn't have that competition you normally have, right? And two, again, he was touched with the zambadas, and whatever you may say about him when it comes to work, they sure have it, right? And they could put it anywhere, not just in the States. So it was a never-ending thing, right? It was long said he had a direct family member to the zambadas, but again, I would just be telling you hearsay, and I don't do that, right? Nevertheless, I want to touch on his way out. You see, it's normal, right? On how people go out. Everybody say it's part of, right? Yeah, I agree. Snitches, rats, people that go down, they don't want to go down, they don't want to drown, so they throw a lot of names, a lot of people like, safety blankets not to drown, even when it's not true. But it should never be like that. I want to speak about Spike from Santa Monica, and they call him let's just say Güero, right? From Venice. But it's not Güero, but let's just say Güero, right? Basically, Topito got out. Topito got out, and he established himself for the zambadas in Baja, in a town in Baja. And of course, they gave him a position, to say the least, right? And he was what I was supposed to do, right? Just open doors, but he's been have that for years, right? Doing things from Southern Cali to his base in Pelican Bay to Washington, not just to one neighborhood, right? For those that don't know, but nevertheless, he paroled, right? And it was after I was already here down in Mexico, I believe when I heard he paroled the first time, I was doing time in Guadalajara, in Jalisco, and he was settled in, right, for the zambadas, but he was doing it like, for example, support you with soldados on that side, mainly again Washington and everything, and you allow me to plug carnales up, right, with material prices, avenues, the whole scenario. And he was doing it like that for a while. And again, the two homies, right, from Santa Monica and Venice. Again, let's just call him Weddle. Placazo has to do with Weddle, but you know, still out here. You know, the homie Spike, he's resting in peace already, right? But nevertheless, he was holding down, right? Oh, they ain't there no more, so let's just put it out there, right? They were in Mexicali. They were doing their thing for the Zambadas, big time. But it was a time where los Rusos were out. There was a bunch of support for the Zambadas out there, right? So Topito had it going on. And not just Topito, because just off the back, right? Old man from Venice was getting love from Topito. Boy Psycho, you know, 3-4 carnales in the feds were tapping into them avenues. And when it came to state alone again, I said Psycho, the Babo, Tablas, they were tapping in at that one time. He had 6-7 carnales from the states tapping into what he was being able to work and reach in Mexicali. The thing came when things hit the fan. You guys know we're not really liked down here. He was respected for the avenues that he opened up for the Zambadas in Washington, right? The camaradas out there, whoever that's out there. Basically he established a lot of pipelines, a lot of avenues in Washington, right? With a lot of people. Again, that's his business, right? And the way I don't want to touch on it is because there's a lot of people involved, right? And he already took care of that, per se. You see, when the Russos started fighting Caiman, separating, there's another individual, right? They call him Tejon, Texas, because it's where his stronghold was at, right? And he separated from the Russos as well. When the war opened up amongst the Zambadas, with the Zambadas, right? And Homeboy's loyalty got questioned when it came to those Russos or Zambadas, right? And in the worst way. And it's basically the games they play in Mexico with us, right? Which is they make fun on how we betray each other. It's funny, huh? How their whole movement in Mexico is trash, telling, stepping on each other. But it becomes amusement when you see these individuals of powers when it comes to us using us, camaradas, sorry, and or throwing it to the wolves. Then it's amusement to them, something that it's a shock to them. But anyways, what happened with the homie Spike, and I keep calling Güero again, he's still out here, right? I don't know if he's doing his thing now or he settled down, I don't know. My respects to whatever he's doing, basically try to sell him up. Topito. Remember we talked about them debts that don't belong to you? Well, this was a debt from a different Pili from the Fed. All of a sudden they sat on his holiday, sat on his money, he sat on the carnal's money even though he knew he was messing directly with Zambadas, right? So again, Topito had to blame somebody, so he's not going to blame his carnales. Remember, us as camaradas were throwaways. We're meant to be the buffer zone to protect them. And at the time I understood it and was dispuesto. I was in the position to fall for a Pili if it came down to, right? But it's not the way it should be. You see, it's all of them have this staccato tendencies. So when would it be time for them to protect the raza or to man up? What I mean to man up is, for example, they say like, oh, I want to attack this neighborhood. Oh, tap into this neighborhood. Clip them. Tell them they have to pay to me now. But tell me why. I want a solid individual that always comes on here. Who bang, you know who you are. To give me an answer on why. You see, what goes comes, right? What makes them so they can sit there in their chair. You see, there is Pilis that bring guns, material, whatever to a neighborhood. They offer their protection per se, right? I mean, protection to a neighborhood. Make that make sense, right? But what about them Pilis that just sit back and they don't bring nothing to the table? They just take like this. He tried to set him up, basically said they were the ones that stole the jale. Keep in mind, these are two camaradas that were up there with us that followed Topito to Washington to help him open some stuff up there. And then they all followed him into Mexico to protect him. When push came to shove, he shoved them in front line. Not in a positive way, but for them to get clipped. Yeah, it was, they got sent to pick up a material, I'll just say this. By this time, you could say the whole Ramfla in Mexico knew what was going on, right? We knew that Billy that eventually checked in the feds, right? Was the one that clipped everything and how Topito was washing up the soldados. But again, it was requested, leave alone, none of our business, you know. But anyways, I do want to say that Billy that's on everything that pushed Topito to do this to his camaradas per se, right? Which was that one Billy people said I know nothing about from Bassett that went winning, right? Anyways, I'm gonna say I'm more of a man than anybody. But what happened to the days, El que la hace la paga, right? Topito was running the camaradas, why not just tell me, homies, cáiganle para el otro lado, I'll man up to the consequences, you know? I loaned this Billy this, it fell, I gotta answer up. Why sent two camaradas to get chopped up? Again, the homie, Guero, he was the one that actually made it out and, he let everything out. And what does Topito do? He went into that program. That program, they go in and they seem to always have a need to speak about what they were a part of, right? His biggest anger was, he thought that the Zambalas, with him gone, they were gonna fall through. Now, it's like the deals and avenues my family still has to this day. Yeah, I brought him to the table, but it had nothing to do with me. You see, when things got offered, I said I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it because I belonged to something and I wanted to bring it to their table. It had nothing to do with family, right? Topito got mad that some of us are still working with Billy's. He brought to the table. He weaned out, took people that showed love and loyalty to him with him, but it's just part of. That's why till now I hear certain individuals attacking members, and it's just jealousy, that they outlasted them, however they want to paint them. But at the end of the day, either in the Wiggles, because they're better than us, remember that? They have the right to stomp on us. As a camarada, you're not going to get nowhere. Or as them calling it quits, going out, they're going to hurt camaradas. I say this to say this. Don't believe what's always told to us, blind loyalty. No. Yes, loyalty. But be aware of how things are, Be aware of characters. Again, I'm not for all that weenie stuff. Stay solid, keep pushing, lace up. Be aware. Don't allow that blinds to go up with what loyalty is. Let's not confuse one thing, Being punk and being fool for being loyal is one thing, and the other thing is being disloyal. So stay smart, stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.